When I discovered that my daughter had secretly taken $500 from my purse, I felt a mix of anger and betrayal. In an attempt to teach her a lesson, I punished her by locking her in her room without food. However, when my husband, Peter, found out, he exploded in rage, throwing a cup of tea in my face right in front of our 9-year-old son, Jacob. It was a shocking moment that pushed me to call 911 for help. But before the authorities arrived, something unexpected occurred that changed everything. My name is Julia, and I want to share my journey, a story of resilience, pain, and ultimately empowerment. As I sit here in my small apartment in Atlanta, I often reflect on the choices I've made and the life I've led, especially in my role as a receptionist at a bustling office. The long hours can be exhausting, but this job allows me to provide for my 2 beautiful children, Emma and Jacob. Emma is now 15, a typical teenager who constantly tests my boundaries. Just the other night, I caught her texting late into the night, her face glowing in the darkness. I once thought this phase would pass, but it seems to intensify each day. "Mom, I need this for school," she insists whenever I question her choices. I remember feeling just as overwhelmed during my teenage years, and I struggle to find the balance between understanding her and enforcing discipline. Jacob, my sweet boy, is 9 years old, quiet and observant. He has an uncanny ability to sense when something is off. On tough days, he wraps his little arms around my waist and reassures me, "It'll be okay, Mom." His innocence gives me strength, reminding me of the joy that can still exist amid the chaos. Then there's Peter, my husband, in his late 30s. It's hard to believe how our lives have changed. He was once charming, full of dreams and aspirations, but over time, those dreams shifted, and so did he. Peter became controlling, criticizing my every decision. From household management to parenting, I learned to stay silent during our disagreements to maintain peace. One evening, after a long shift at work, I came home exhausted, my feet aching and my mind spinning. The familiar scent of dinner filled the air, but chaos reigned in our small apartment. Jacob was playing on the floor, while Emma sat on the couch, glued to her phone, with the TV blaring in the background. "Emma, could you please help out a bit?" I asked, trying to muster patience. She barely glanced up, muttering, "I'm busy, Mom." I sighed, bracing for the battle ahead. After putting my things away, I went to my purse for grocery money, only to find it $500 short. My heart sank. I knew exactly how much I had withdrawn for the week. "Hey, Emma, have you seen any money in my purse? It seems to be missing," I asked casually. Her expression shifted to guilt. "Oh, I meant to tell you I took some for a school project," she admitted, her voice hesitant. "I didn't think you'd mind." Anger and disappointment surged through me. "You took it without asking, Emma. That's not okay. It's about trust and respect." "But it was just money," she protested, frustration creeping into her tone. "You're locking me in a room for this? It's unfair." "This isn't just about punishment," I replied firmly. "It's about teaching you responsibility." Emma rolled her eyes, throwing her hands up. "This is so dumb. I have a life, you know?" As our argument escalated, my patience wore thin. "This isn't just about money, Emma. It's about learning to ask before you take. I'm your mother, and I need you to understand that." Just then, Peter stepped through the door, his eyes darkening at the sight of our tension. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "Emma took money from my purse without asking, and now she's locked in her room," I explained, trying to keep things calm. Peter scoffed, shaking his head. "You're punishing her for a little cash? Seriously, you're being too controlling, Julia." His words cut deep. "It's not about the amount, Peter. It's about honesty and trust. You make everything about rules and punishments. Maybe if you weren't so harsh, she wouldn't feel the need to hide things." He shot back, pacing the room. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. "This is about teaching our daughter the right values." "Right values?" he sneered. "You think you're perfect? You're the one turning my kids against me with your strictness." My heart raced as I tried to defend myself. "I'm not turning anyone against you. You're doing that by being unreasonable." The argument escalated quickly, voices rising as emotions boiled over. I felt trapped, like a caged animal. Then, in a split second, everything changed. Peter grabbed a cup of tea and threw it in my face. The scalding liquid shocked me, and I stumbled back, reeling from confusion and disbelief. "Mom," Jacob cried from the hallway, fear in his wide eyes. I quickly wiped my face, trying to shield him from the ugliness of the moment. "I'm fine, honey. Please go back to your room," I urged, my voice shaking. As Jacob retreated, I turned back to Peter, my heart pounding. "You just threw tea at me," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I didn't mean to, Julia," Peter said, his eyes wide with shock. "No, you did. You crossed a line tonight." The weight of reality crashed down on me, and I knew this couldn't continue. I had to protect myself and my children. As I sank onto the couch, the sting of Peter's actions still fresh on my cheek, I realized this was a turning point. I had to take action. The fear that had crept silently into our home could no longer be ignored. I needed help. That night felt like an unending nightmare. After Peter stormed out of the room, I sat in silence, my heart racing as I replayed the moment in my mind. The sharp sting on my cheek served as a painful reminder that the man I once loved had become a stranger. The next morning, I awoke feeling drained, the events of the previous night haunting me. I knew I couldn't continue like this. I had to do something, not just for myself, but for my children. After sending Emma and Jacob off to school, I sat in the kitchen, staring blankly at my cup of coffee, pondering my next move. That's when I decided to reach out to my closest friend, Hannah. We'd known each other for years, and I knew she would understand. "Hannah, I need your help," I whispered into the phone, my voice trembling. "Julia, what's wrong?" she asked, her tone instantly filled with concern. "It's Peter. He threw tea on me last night in front of Jacob. I can't stay here anymore." "Julia, pack your things and come stay with me. You and the kids. You can't go back to that place," she urged. "I can't just leave everything behind," I stammered, glancing around my small kitchen. "What about the kids? What will I tell them?" "Tell them the truth, that you're keeping them safe. Please, just come here. We'll figure it out together." My heart raced as I hung up the phone. Was I really going to do this? Leave everything behind? But as I thought about Peter's rage, the look of fear in Jacob's eyes, and the atmosphere of dread that had become our norm, I knew I had no other choice. I packed a bag with only the essentials, taking just what we needed. I hesitated for a moment, staring at the small apartment that had been our home for so long, but I understood I couldn't stay. When Emma and Jacob came home from school, I was ready. "Kids, we're going to stay at Aunt Hannah's for a while," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why?" Emma asked, her eyes narrowing in suspicion. "Because we need some time away from Dad," I replied softly. "It's just temporary, I promise." Emma's gaze shifted from suspicion to a look of understanding. "Is it because of what happened last night?" she asked quietly. "Yes," I admitted, my heart aching. "I need to make sure we're all safe." The drive to Hannah's felt surreal. The kids sat quietly in the back seat, confusion and fear evident in their eyes. I wanted to reassure them, to promise that everything would be okay, but the words escaped me. All I could do was keep driving. Hannah met us at the door, her arms open wide. "You're safe now," she murmured, pulling me into a warm embrace. "You're safe here." In that moment, I broke down, the weight of everything crashing over me, the years of fear, isolation, and pain, all the things I had kept hidden for so long. As I cried in Hannah's arms, I felt something new stir within me, a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could start anew. The following weeks passed in a blur as I adjusted to our new reality. I focused on creating as normal a life as possible for Emma and Jacob, keeping them engaged with school and activities. Hannah was a lifesaver, helping me navigate the chaos of leaving, providing support and encouragement when I felt like crumbling. One afternoon, while sitting on Hannah's porch sipping tea, I had a revelation. I couldn't hide forever. "I'm going to file for divorce," I said quietly, almost more to myself than to anyone else. Hannah looked up, her face radiating pride. "You should, Julia. It's time." The process was grueling, filled with legalities and confrontations I hadn't anticipated. Each encounter with Peter brought back the old fear. His attempts to manipulate and intimidate me felt like echoes of a painful past. But I kept my head high, refusing to back down. I had to do this for myself and my children. After months of battling, it was finally over. In the courtroom, I listened as the judge pronounced, "Full custody of the children is awarded to Mrs. Julia Walters." Relief washed over me, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could finally breathe. I had done it. I had protected my kids and reclaimed control of my life. As I left the courthouse, I looked up at the sky, feeling the warmth of the sun on my face. I was free, The following months became a time of rebuilding. I found a small apartment, just big enough for the three of us, and began piecing our lives back together. The kids adjusted slowly, but as the days passed, I watched them start to thrive. Emma joined the school's debate team and made new friends, while Jacob discovered a love for basketball, spending hours practicing at the local park. I landed a job at a small marketing firm, where my colleagues were kind and supportive. Balancing work and home life on my own wasn't easy, but with each passing day, I felt stronger. The fear that once gripped my heart began to fade, replaced by a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. One evening, as we sat around our tiny kitchen table eating dinner, Emma looked up at me and said, "Mom, I'm glad we left. You seem happier." I smiled, my heart swelling with love. "I am, sweetie, I really am." And I meant it. For the first time, I felt truly free, free to be the mother my children deserved, free to become the woman I was meant to be. We weren't just surviving anymore, we were living. Our lives weren't perfect, but they were ours, and that was enough. That's where our story finds its heart, in a place of hope and freedom. We survived, we overcame, and now we were finally free. Days turned into weeks, and I began to settle into a routine I hadn't imagined before. Each new morning brought a little more lightness, the chains of the past loosening bit by bit. Though moments of doubt and flashes of fear still lingered, they became fewer and farther between. Emma and Jacob seemed happier too. Their laughter filled our small apartment, a sound I hadn't realized I'd been missing for so long. One day, as I dropped Jacob off at basketball practice, I spotted a familiar figure standing by the court. It was Peter. My heart raced, old fear surging up like a tidal wave. But then I looked at Jacob, his face lighting up as he ran to join his friends. And I knew I couldn't let Peter's presence ruin this. I squared my shoulders and approached him. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice calm and steady. Peter turned, surprise flickering across his face. I wanted to see Jacob." "You can't just show up unannounced," I replied firmly. "If you want to see him, we can set up a time, but you don't get to disrupt his life like this." Peter blinked, as if he hadn't expected me to stand my ground. "I'm sorry," he murmured, glancing down. "I'll call next time." "Please do," I said, turning away before the conversation could drag on. I didn't need his apologies. I needed boundaries, and I wasn't going to let him cross them, not anymore. As I drove away, a strange sense of calm settled over me. I had faced Peter and held my own. I wasn't the same scared woman I had been before. I was stronger now, and I wouldn't let him take that from me. The following weeks became a whirlwind of school events, work deadlines, and family time. Slowly but surely, we began to build new memories free from the shadows of the past. One Saturday, while we sat in the living room watching a movie together, Jacob turned to me and asked, "Mom, do you think we'll ever go back?" "Back?" I echoed, frowning at Jacob. "To how things used to be," he murmured, staring down at his hands. A pang shot through my chest as I understood what he meant. "No, sweetie, we're not going back," I said gently. "But that's a good thing. We're moving forward. We're building something new together." He nodded slowly, digesting my words. "I like it better this way," he whispered. "Me too," Emma chimed in, surprising me. She rarely spoke about Peter or the past. I glanced over at her, but she was focused on the screen, her expression calm and serene. My heart swelled with pride. They were healing. We were healing. As time passed, life settled into a comforting rhythm. I immersed myself in my work, finding joy in small victories and nurturing new friendships. The kids continued to flourish, their smiles growing brighter with each day, and gradually, the fear that once gripped me began to fade. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Peter. I hesitated, staring at the envelope for a long moment before finally opening it. The letter was brief, filled with apologies and promises to change. But as I read the words, I felt nothing, no anger, no sadness, just a sense of closure. I folded the letter neatly and tucked it away. It didn't matter what Peter said or promised. He was a part of my past, and I was focused on the future. Months passed, and as the anniversary of our departure approached, I decided to do something special for Emma and Jacob. I packed a picnic and took them to a park we used to visit when they were younger. Before everything had turned dark, we spread out a blanket and spent the afternoon playing games, enjoying sandwiches, and reminiscing about happier times. "Do you remember when we used to come here?" Emma asked, surveying the park with a soft smile. "Yeah," Jacob said, his eyes sparkling. Dad would push us on the swings. The mention of Peter tightened my chest, but I forced myself to smile. Yes, I remember. But now we're making new memories, just the three of us. Jacob grinned and nodded. Just us. As the sun began to set, I looked at my children, their faces glowing in the soft light, and felt a deep sense of contentment. We had come so far. We had endured so much, but we were still standing, still together. That night, after the kids were tucked in bed, I sat on the porch sipping a cup of tea, letting memories wash over me, the fear, the pain, the uncertainty. They were all still there, buried deep, but they no longer controlled me. I was in control now. I had my children, my freedom, and a future that was ours to shape. This is where our story truly concludes, not in bitterness or regret, but in hope. We survived, we healed, and we are finally free. The road ahead may still be uncertain, but I know we'll face it together with courage and love, because we've learned that no matter how dark things get, there is always light waiting on the other side.